So again, my name is Liz Cardenas Franke, and I am the writer and director, a producer on it, and I was one of the stars of the film, along with J.B. Edwards in the film, who plays my father. And like she said, Kelly and Hutch were producers, and then Hutch was also the director of photography. And the short film was a collaboration. It's actually based on my personal experiences as a caregiver to my elderly father. After my mother passed away, my sister and I were taking care of my father so that he could stay in his home. And I just, over time, started meeting so many people who were going through similar things. It was something that was affecting more and more young people and really kind of having a huge effect on their lives. And so initially when I wrote it and showed the script to like Kelly and Hutch, you know, it started kind of from a place of being, hey, maybe this will be cathartic for me to kind of write some of my experiences out. They responded to the material, and we had worked on other projects together, so they're like, let's make this. And just meeting more people who were going through similar things from all walks of life, I thought it might be a good story to kind of put out there.
It has an effect on mature people too.
What was it like casting your father's character and then vice versa getting to play your father?
Yeah, it was tough in the fact that since it's so personal, I had worked with JB before. He was in a family film of ours that we had made. And so I knew he was a strong actor, but the role of the father has dementia in the film. And that's something that's really hard to portray accurately, the kind of going in and out. And so when he read for it, we all felt like, whoa, he captured that so well. There's moments where you feel like he's really there, and then there's moments where he's not, which is so realistic, and that's kind of what we really wanted to capture with the film, was an authenticity.
Well, and I met his father, and he wasn't able to respond much, but it was interesting acting in it, because it was scary in a lot of ways, because that could be the future for a lot of people.
And you have, JB has
Yeah.
personal experience as well.
It's interesting too, because we ended up filming it in her actual father's house, and that's also, I mean, it's just, you've got not only this house that Liz has lived in, been around for a long time, and we're kind of like invading this space, and it's like, it was really weird, because it was that like kind of crazy line of like very almost documentary, but like a fictionalized documentary, and it's kind of a strange place to be, because sets, usually, at least when I'm on them, are usually pretty humorous, and you gotta relieve stress, but for something like this, there was a certain amount of respect we all kind of had, and it was probably a little bit more somber on set, but it was needed for the material, and so it was kind of interesting to see that, but it was really a surreal experience, like shooting it like in like the room that her father actually lives in, and where JB was in the short, and it adds this authenticity that just like you can't get any other way.
There was also a moment, if you don't mind me sharing,
no.
where
Yeah.
it was a really late night shooting, and I mean, we were good. We didn't have crazy hours, but we were kind of working later into the night, and there was an issue with her dad and where he was staying, the short-term facility or whatever, and so we were in the middle of shooting, and he had to come home, and it was such a neat experience for the crew to have to see that, and the dad coming home and getting wheeled in his wheelchair, and it was such a heavy moment. At the same time, really gave us all that sense of reality that kind of helped, I would say, the film.
Yeah.
While we were doing it,
Yeah.
it was interesting, but it was strange because
made it so
it was
real.
literally being like pushed in on the wheelchair through our set. Like we had to stop
Moving
filming
lights around.
and moving lights around so he can like come through, and it was just really
They talk
emotionally
about life
charged. Yeah.
imitating art,
Yeah.
or art imitating life. I guess it's kind of both.
Yeah, it's
And so that's kind of really what it was. And just to give a little background information, my father is in hospice at home. My sister and I take care of him, but she moved back home and lives with him full time to care for him. And so hospice offers respite care, where it gives the caregiver a little break. So it was kind of a weird thing where it kind of worked out where I was like, my sister could get the time off she desperately needed. My father could still be being cared for. We could film in the house, which, like Hutch was saying, offered so much realism because we had medical supplies. We had, you know, the handicap, the bed and the wheelchairs and all the machines,
medical
all the
Well, the
stuff.
production design of like even like down to the paintings that her father had painted, you know, years ago, we had on the walls, and it's just very authentic.
So then, while he was being cared for, unfortunately, the facility wasn't taking care of him, and so he got sick, and so my sister had to bring him home early. And so, yeah, we were still in the middle of filming when we had to bring him home, and he's followed by his hospice nurse, and it was really tough. But everyone was so wonderful, and like I said from the beginning, this was really like a collaborative thing with the actors, with the producers, and cinematographer. It's like, you know, we all try to create something that we thought would impact people and really bring this thing to life, I guess.
Duke it out.
Going back to being so involved as a director, writer, producer, and actress, what kind of toll did that take on you, and what was it like the transition of having to switch hats so often throughout the film, and some pros and cons of that versus just playing one role?
I think it was extremely difficult and stressful, and I'll admit that in the beginning I was like, am I crazy for doing this, and I don't know if I can do this. But I also thought it was both a challenge as an artist, you know, whether it be as the actress or a director, but I also thought it would help ground it, because I've lived through stuff, so I could really bring some reality to it. And I knew that I had such a good team. You know, I relied on them so much, you know, because of the fact that they were both producers, and then Kelly was the assistant director, and Hutch was the director of photography. So it's one of those things where, you know, you rely on this great team that you've created, and so it makes things go a little more smoothly, so that at the time when I was acting, I could really focus on that while they were handling other things. And then you cast actors that are just, they're right for the part, they're so talented, you bond with them, and that makes it easier, you know, although it was
Easier
tough.
and
It was
harder.
tough. Yeah. I know, like, he's so sweet. Did you?
Yeah, this is really for you, Mr. Edwards, but y'all all kind of touched on this a little bit. Talk about the mindset in getting into a character like that.
I'd gone through it with my mother, and so I mind some of that. But it was just getting rid of the fear.
The fear being,
Of actually being in that situation
okay.
and going there.
And I'm sure that it also probably, again, made it difficult, but then also helped being in such a realistic environment.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it wasn't just a set. It was a real home with real stuff. So it's easy for your subconscious to go where it needs to go to get the performances that you need.
Right.
But it's scary.
And it was easy working with someone like Liz, because she was so in the moment and so there that it was the distractions. You know, a film set is like this. You've got people walking around, bartenders over there, but we were able to concentrate on that particular moment in time, and that helped.
I agree. And I think because so many of us were doing multiple roles, it created a much more intimate environment. You know, smaller crew, smaller team.
I
which I
mean,
think
we were
helped.
like, most of us were already friends to begin with, and then the ones that we didn't know that well, we became friends with. It was really, at least from like my side, it's always interesting to see, you know, actors that just like completely let their guard down, because it's really easy to like put a wall up and like, you know, not be too vulnerable, but everybody just kind of like, it was hard to watch. It was hard to film, you know. I mean, eyepiece kind of got foggy a couple
I remember
times.
Hutch
You know?
saying that.
It's like I can't. Okay, I need to look at a monitor. I can't look through here. So it's tough, you know, and it's you know, kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's like, you know, is it suck that we have to have something to create? Yeah, it kind of sucks the, you know, the reason why we have to, but it's also beautiful to work it out. You know? So it's like, you know, we have to go through these experiences. We don't have a choice, but then to actually try to create something based off that choice, I think is very cathartic.
I totally agree. And it's something that you think people that are going through this can relate to it, and hopefully this will help in some way, maybe be comforting in some way, and then people who haven't kind of get a glimpse at this life, because like I said, it's becoming more and more prevalent where people are having to take care of a parent, and I feel like so many people can relate to when a woman has a baby or a child, you know, and they give allowances for that, but it's like I think in the world of really having to change your life in order to care for a parent like that, I just think that people don't really grasp it, and so we wanted to show what it's kind of really like, I guess. Yeah.
I'm floored by everything here, actually. I know a lot of people bond on films and stuff. There's there's so much real, raw emotion in all this. But this has even been done. Do you feel like you have a stronger bond than other films with this one? Because it just sounds really hard to do.
It's like, I guess you'd say, going back, it's kind of like almost like a surreal experience because it is so real. And, but I think that that's what, I don't know, I don't want to qualify from something else, but that's what we want to do as artists, you know? And so, I can just say, you know, I've made other films as, this was my very first time to direct anything. I'm an actress and a producer and writer. The last several years, I've made family films. Like, I have a series of films called Adventures of Bailey out that are like talking dog movies. And Hutch has been the DP. Kelly's worked on it, been a producer. Like I said, JB had a part in one. So I really was wanting to really push myself in an artistic way and really kind of, I don't know, maybe dig deep on something like this. Not that the family movies or the dog movies aren't personal, because they are and they mean a lot to me, but it's a different thing. And so, you know, I was like, if we're gonna do this, let's just go for it. I think you had your hand up earlier, sorry.
I have a two-part question.
Sure.
There's always therapeutic groups for, you know, things that you're going through. Did you do anything with a group, you know, sharing your experiences with what you did with your father?
I'm sorry.
Support groups.
Support groups,
Oh,
sorry.
do I have any support? You know, not really. Obviously, hospice has been very beneficial. But I will say that I have a support group in terms of, like Hutch said, we were friends. We were working on other projects and we were friends before this. So we already had that bond going in. And then, you know, my sister and I are the ones that take care of my father. And we have each other, and so often in this world, people are left by themselves. And so the film isn't necessarily me or my sister. It's a combination of experiences plus people we've met, because so often people are left alone to deal with this. And so I really wanted to try to capture that in the film, whereas, you know, my sister and I have each other, and so we kind of just relied on each other as opposed to like support groups, if that was what your question was.
Yeah.
Or were you asking if we went to support?
Well, no, I was asking you specifically. It leads into my second question. I think you've already answered in the last video. I'm always fond of quotes by writers, rambling ones, that writing is a form of therapy. Do you feel that doing this film is your own therapy?
Yeah, it really was.
Well, it should be. You should be making movies if making them isn't therapy of some kind. Art in general should be therapy. If you're just making it for the sake of making it and it's not bettering you or bettering somebody else in some way or shape or form, then in my opinion it's completely useless.
And I think that to kind of go back to what you were saying before, because we were friends before, it made it such a special experience for all of us to get to be a part of that with Liz. You know, and we had no choice but to bond over it. You know, for something to be that raw with you.
And I think we also try to capture there are some funny moments in the film. It's not completely a downer the whole way
That's
because
right.
I wanted to, in life that's how it is. There's ups and downs and one minute you're laughing and the next minute you're crying. And so I really wanted to capture that. And I also wanted to make it be, at the end of the day, although it's, I guess you'd say maybe bittersweet because it is sad, I wanted there to be some sort of inspirational aspect to it about how resilient we as humans can be. That there's no way, me personally, if you would have told me 2 years ago or 3 years ago, you would have been able to do all this, I would have been like, there's no way. There's no way I could have gone. And you find yourself getting strength from places, whether it's taking care of your father, making this film, whatever. And so there's a little bit of that in the film of that human resilience and being able to be strong enough to do the things that you need to do for your loved ones. And it's a kind of like, I'm not gonna say it's a love letter to my dad or, you know, to my sister, but there's an element of that in there as well that, you know, that's really special to me.
We have time for one more case.
Oh no. How do we choose?
Yeah, you have an answer question.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story. You know, that takes a lot of courage, and it's really great to hear you guys talk about it. It's really beautiful, it is. And so, you know, on that note, having done this experience, does this make you want to go in kind of a different direction, having a past some more lighthearted films, or do you just kind of want to do this and go back?
That's a good question. I initially thought of this as a feature, and so then I was like, let's try to do, but that's a little different. And so I was contemplating when we were making it, the idea of let's do the short, see how it turns out, the response, how we feel, and that maybe we could go back and develop something with a similar theme or tone for a feature. We're still so close to this that it's like, I don't know if we're there yet. Maybe we should do something, you know, else.
We need therapy for our therapy.
Before we do that.
I'm
There's
not,
a pub next door.
yeah. That's right. Yeah. Well, there's a bar right there.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm ready to wear a diaper again yet.
Yeah, because he exposed himself. I mean, that sounded weird. Both emotionally, but then also like in a physical,
The
in a
crew saw
physical,
way more of me than they needed to see.
which was
awesome.
daring and brave, but real. And that's again what we wanted to do was be authentic and real.
Well, and that was the other thing too, even in the editing process, like going back and forth. It's like, okay, how much of this do we show? Like, and it's like going back and forth. So it's like it's not supposed to be gratuitous. It's not supposed to be shocking. It's just what's the right amount so people get the point, but it's not like we're not skirting the issue, which is always a tough